Hello everyone. Welcome to part 2 of the Network Services room on TryHackMe. In this video we're going to be covering the Telnet section of the room. Now if you've been following along from the SMB video and you haven't terminated that machine, I would recommend doing that now, jumping down to task 6 here and starting the Telnet machine so you can give it some time to boot up while we run through understanding Telnet. Now just like SMB, pretty much all these questions that we have for this section can be answered in the text above. So let's go ahead and get started. First question, what is Telnet? Telnet is an application protocol. What has slowly replaced Telnet? Telnet has been replaced by SSH in most implementations. How would you connect to a Telnet server with this IP address on port 23? Right here is the syntax for using Telnet. So Telnet, then the IP address, and then the port. Now for this one, the literal answer isn't there, but the lack of what means that all Telnet communication is in plain text. The way you get things out of plain text is encryption. Or you use encryption so that you don't have plain text, I should say. Alright, moving on to task 6, enumerating Telnet. Says it can take up to 5 minutes to get started, so again, if you hadn't already started it, go ahead and do that now. More about enumeration, more about port scanning, using Nmap. Alright, how many ports are open on the target machine? So for this machine, my Nmap scan was this one. -A, -P-, and then the address of the machine, which for me now would be 182.46 there. But mine took a very long time, like somewhere around 18 minutes to complete. So if you're using one of the TryHackMe machines, either the attack box or the web-based Kali Linux, it should take you much less time, but still a little while. So instead of running through this and having you guys waste 18 minutes of your time, I output it to a file. So we can just look at it here. So right now we've got one port open. It's in the 8000 range. That means that if you didn't include the -P- to scan all of the ports and it just did the 1024 most common, or 1024 most common, you wouldn't find this. It would say there was nothing. So making sure you have all ports scanned is important for this one. Alright, so first question. How many ports are open? 1. What port? 8012. It is using the TCP protocol. Now here is where it's going to have you run without the P tag to say all of the ports. So as I mentioned just before, you're going to find 0. This explains why. Oh, top 1000 ports, right? Based on the title, what do we think this port could be used for? So the title is right here. I would say that gives us a pretty good idea that it is a backdoor. And who do you think it belongs to? Probably someone that goes by Skitty. Alright, now this is an important thing to note. Whenever you're going through these tasks, be it in your professional life or through these TryHackMe challenges, it's always good to take notes so that you can reference them later. If you're doing this professionally, very important to have notes for when you write your report. Alright, on to task 7, exploiting Telnet. So you've got some CVEs on MITRE. If you haven't looked through MITRE, if you don't know who MITRE is, I highly recommend learning about MITRE, but that is definitely outside the scope of this room. So we're going to move on. Another refresh on Telnet syntax, definition of a reverse shell. Alright, let's try and connect to the Telnet port. So Telnet 10.10.182 and then 46. This is going to be for mine. Yours will be different for the IP address, but the port is going to be the same. We're going to connect to 8012. And there we are. We're at Skitty's backdoor. If you want to know what's available here, we can do .help to view the commands. All we have is .run to execute commands and exit to leave. So we have connected. What's our welcome message? Our welcome message is Skitty's back door, and it looks like they do want the period included. There we go. Now let's try executing some commands. So the help says we need to do .run, but we get nothing back. So do we get a return on any of the input we enter? No, we do not. All right, so that's a click complete. Now here we're going to start a TCP dump. So I'm going to use a new terminal for this. So I am using my own machine, so this is what I'm going to do. If you're on the attack box or Kali Linux, it will probably be one of these down here for which network adapter we're using. I, and then I took a note of my own address for ton 0, which is that. All right. Oh, right. There we go. I'm just blanked on that one. There we go. So now we've got the listener going. You're just going to leave the cursor here because it's going to be looking for other things. Let's actually shrink this down so we can have both windows visible. And then here, pull that one up. All right. So now we've got our listener going. Now we're going to ping through the Telnet session. So up here I've got the Telnet session going. So .run, because we're using Skitty's backdoor, so we need to do that. Ping our local IP. Here is where I needed that IP address. And then gonna do count of just 1. So all we get is 1 ping sent. And look at that. There is our ping request. So it is getting sent out. We can commute or execute commands here, but we're just not getting anything back. So were we able to execute commands? Yes. So that means we got commands. They can reach our local machines. Now we're going to get our reverse shell. So to do that, we're going to use MSF Venom to create a payload that will get us a netcat reverse shell. So here, let's see, now we don't need this listener anymore. So let's cancel out of that with Control C. Then we're going to do our MSF Venom payload. Now be sure to enter in your own local IP. If you don't know how to find that, you can use ifconfig if you're on a Linux machine here like this, and it will tell you what your IP address is for each adapter. All right, I think we got that in. Gonna hit enter, wait for MSF Venom to create us a payload. Here we go. So the question asks us, what word does the generated payload start with? It starts with MKFIFO. So we can paste that in. There we go. Now we're going to start a netcat listener. We can use this one right here where we had the TCP dump. So we're going to do netcat minus LVP. And then our listening port, which as you can see from our MSF Venom command, we're using port 4444. So now we've got the listener there. The command is going to be NC minus LVP, and then our listening port. All right, now we need to copy and paste our MSF Venom payload. So we're going to copy this line right here, and we're going to put that into our Telnet session. Now I believe we still need .run. Let's see here. There we do. Connected to. So we got that in. We've got connected. We've got a reverse shell. There we go. We can now talk to it and get things back. So to see what flag.txt is, we're going to cat that out to the screen. And there we go. THM, you got the Telnet flag. Congratulations. We have now made it through the second section of the network services room. And Telnet is all done. I'll see you guys in the next one.